We are here, Radio Row. I am joined by Ryan Bleav, not a stranger to the sights and sounds of Super Bowl, the excitement, the pageantry, a celebration. Super Bowl 60, San Francisco, which was here 10 years ago.
First time I ever came to it was kind of like my reintroduction. I had been out of prison for 13 months. My wife, who's from the area, with my girlfriend at the time, we came up here. She was on to show me where she went to high school and things like that. And then I was going to go to a health and wellness thing that the NFLPA was putting on to check our health. And one of my friends who was the EP for the Dan Patrick show asked me to come on and tell my story. And it went berserk. We ended up doing like 84 of these on Radio Row. And
Wow.
It changed everything for me on the trajectory of where I was going in terms of sharing my story. And then my wife and I started a company. She became the COO of the company. And so she kind of runs and does all our production and everything like that. So it was really a catalyst 10 years ago here in San Francisco.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 50 was really a changing moment for you, which is really interesting because that's been so unique to kind of get together, gather, and what I love about sports in general. You can just look at the Rams this season kind of being tested, having moments of adversity. You know, we talk about the Matthew Stafford back situation. He may play.
Not even play. Yeah.
He might not. You know, he gets one swift, hit, and they played the Texans week 1. That pass rush is lethal. And to me, I think those are the stories that are really the most interesting, that brings us together in the world of sports. You know, for you, when you look at what you've seen out of the Rams, it feels like each season or each like part of the season has been several seasons in one. What do you make of stories like that when you take just a look at the Rams and what they've overcome, some of the odds? Stafford's getting old now. Devontae's a certain age, and then they kind of make it and surprise a lot of people, and really very close to even being here in San Francisco, Super Bowl 60. What do you make of the season, big picture?
I thought it was a tremendous season on their part. I thought that Matthew may have played his best season ever at this age. Devontae caught as many touchdowns than anybody in the NFL, too. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of trust there, especially when they got inside the 10-yard line, with Matthew going to him, I think, on a lot of RPO stuff. I think there was a lot of run plays called, but Sean had given him a lot of leeway to throw that ball to Devontae, and they connected well. I got a chance to call. I called the playoff game in Charlotte, and I couldn't get over how well Matthew played, how the team responded, the tight end position, and which they used that 13 personnel. I think that was the difference maker in that game, and their ability to kind of get more physical and then use the big tight end down the stretch. I thought when Matthew threw that ball away, I thought he was throwing it away. But when you got a 6'7" with the tight end with the arm stretch length that he has, what a catch, what a win. Tremendous year. I think that, we've heard Sean McVay talk about how difficult that loss was. And this one's going to stick with him for a while. And I think, that's understandable. He's probably taken a look in the mirror and seen some things he probably could have done differently that may have had a different kind of outcome. I don't think he second guesses himself too much, but that's something that he's going to take a look at, and some of the decisions he made and how he would have done differently maybe heading into next year.
How hard is that? As McVay is a high motor, all in guy, and so is Stafford. It's been really interesting being in the four walls of the Rams because they're all about commitment, but they're also all about family and taking care of each other cohesively. Like going through, they had 5 losses. They lost to Carolina. They lost to the Falcons. Like there were some moments where they could have kind of folded. And, obviously they didn't get the result that they wanted. Is that even harder, by the way, to go all the way to the NFC Championship and not win? Or lose in the regular season? That's hard. That hurts more?
I just think you've worked to that point, and you're one of 2 teams left, and they also had the game in their grasp. It's different if they got blown out in the NFC Championship game. They had the lead at one point after the Kyron Williams touchdown catch. And so that's got to be difficult. I agree with you in terms of their understanding of how hard work and family can be, can coexist. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to be a good father, that takes a lot of hard work. It's an understanding and it's a juggling act, and so they get that. They understand that. I think Sean becoming a father recently, I think taught that lesson even more. And so they attack every day with the idea that they can only control their attitude, their behavior, and their effort. And that's the thing that they try to control the best, and they do a really good job of it. It's been fun to see.
Yeah. I mean, and the future is bright, but what do you make of what Stafford is potentially going through? Because, one of the biggest storylines out of LA, which I always like to look at the lens underneath the stats and the accolades and the MVP campaign and all of those things is, now McVay is in a very challenging situation where they have to look to the future eventually. And let's say, they have 2 first-round picks, thanks to Atlanta. They would I imagine you're thinking they're going to draft a quarterback. How is that underneath it all, having to make sure Stafford feels, valued, respected, and yet, as a quarterback, you're looking to find the next guy to kind of replace him.
It's a tough situation to be in, but also, listen, if the guy goes out and throws another 40-plus touchdowns, it doesn't matter who you draft or where you place him at. Aaron Rodgers was upset, when Jordan Love came in. Brett Favre was upset when they drafted Aaron Rodgers, right? There's a blueprint to doing some of these things. Like if Sean McVay could draft a quarterback he really likes and he knows he has maybe 2, possibly 3 years with Matthew Stafford at an elite level, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not jump at that opportunity? A guy that he thinks he can develop and put into a position to ascend when Matthew Stafford calls it a career. I think that's the way to go, especially with the way the development of quarterbacks is going, the young quarterbacks. And, when you bounce around from team to team in the college level, you don't ever spend enough time in an offense long enough to really understand it and get to know it. So that's a big deal.
Well, I mean, you can use the Tom Brady example, too. I mean, Bill Belichick and company drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. And he definitely didn't make a difference. Obviously, it didn't impact, the focus and what, Tom Brady was able to achieve. When you look at the division and you see Sam Darnold, again, because of the various challenges Darnold has had to go through, even just against the Rams defense last year when he was with the Vikings, you really thought Darnold was going to see ghosts, and he managed to have such poise, a lot like Caleb Williams too, by the way, which I went to USC. When you see Sam Darnold, how do you think he was able to rectify, in a way, a career that I think a lot of people sort of forgot about?
Yeah, it's incredibly impressive. When you are drafted that high and things don't go well to start, there is an anchor that is attached to you that you wear. And most in the history of the NFL have been unable to shake that. Mm-hmm. I was one of them. Mm-hmm. It just shows how mentally tough he is to overcome that. And listen, even last year, almost one of the winningest seasons ever in Minnesota, 14 wins, and that team still said not good enough.
I know.
What he needed is somebody to believe in him. And he kept working. Every year I'd always reach out to Jordan Palmer and ask which pros are coming back that continue to work on fundamentals and technique and stuff. And Sam Darnold was there every single year. Every offseason, he was right back in the lab going at it. He did not allow what happened yesterday to affect tomorrow. And so that's the version we're seeing. And he absolutely was surgical in the NFC title game because that running game was non-existent in the second half. They couldn't do anything against that Rams defense. He had to be the answer, and he was the answer. And I think he quieted a lot of critics through this process.
Yeah, and he's the favorite on FanDuel Sportsbook to win Super Bowl MVP, which is crazy if you think about a year ago. No one even saw the concept of, Sam Darnold's team is going to be in the Super Bowl come Super Bowl 60. Here in San Francisco, we're at Radio Row. I'm with Ryan Leaf. Like, this just feels so, what does it feel like for you when you're here? If there's something, does it feel magical? Can you put your finger on what this is, how cool it is for you? Do you enjoy it? Do you like it? Do you try to dodge making eye contact with certain people?
No, I think it's a really neat opportunity to see people I haven't seen for probably a year, and some former teammates or former players that we haven't seen for a long time. It's a good way to connect. And then it's a real opportunity for me to use my platform to try to help people, who are dealing with a tough go at it, whether that through mental health or substance use, and that platform is one I don't take for granted. And so I take it very seriously these 2 days that I do it. And then the rest of the week, it's, hanging out and playing a lot of golf, especially when we're in a good venue like this here in San Francisco. And I do miss my family. I have a little 8-year-old and 2-year-old back home. And so I miss being with them. But I know that as soon as I get back, the season will be over, and I'll have like 3 months off to just spend with them and be a girl dad.
Oh, I love that. I mean, you're because of your story, which is why I really wanted to have you on. You're obviously very familiar with, the sights and sounds.
I'm very familiar with Bleav too,
and co-founder of Bleav, which is, has been, a lot of people have talked about Bleav here actually, which I've been fascinated. I think the thing that I am most curious is how media is shifting and changing, and people really want, and I think the people that are representing Bleav, your talent, your on-camera talent, they kind of show a layer that I think fans want: less polished, more authenticity, more realness, which is what you always bring. And, one of the things that I've always been most interested about your story as the recovery playbook, which is a conversation that you have about addiction, your story, you're very open about what you've gone through. And I think it plays into, things that have hit close to home for me, not just someone who loves the concept of sports, but also how you have to face the concept of a loss, whether it's at home or it's on a field. For you, why do you think that it ties into sports so much? Because, you guys as pro athletes there's an identity there that it goes away or it shifts or it changes when you lose your job and or you retire, or you have an injury. And we don't talk enough about what the emotional challenges are of a football player, which is why I think it's in my opinion, it's bigger than stats.
Oh, it's huge. Your identity is so wrapped up in being a football player your entire life. Who are you when the uniform comes off? And what happens if you don't feel like you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish? And most guys that leave the league feel that way, whether they won Super Bowls or not. They just feel like they didn't accomplish enough of the sport they want to play, didn't play long enough, or whatever the deal is. So it's really important for me. It's kind of taken the power away from not being super successful at the NFL level for me. It's taken the power away from what other people think of me because of that. It's allowed me to find some humility, which to me means you like the guy in the mirror, you know the guy in the mirror, and that's who you like. That's what humility is for me, and I try to present that in everything I do. Ironically enough, I'm more confident now with all the baggage and the scars and everything than I ever was as a starting NFL quarterback. That's because of the work I've done. And so when I got asked to be the ambassador at the Menninger Clinic down in Houston, it was a no-brainer. They have an association with the NFLPA, which is our union, and during that process, while I'm down there, quarterly, there'll be anywhere from 8 to 12 former NFL players there that I can help in a peer-to-peer situation. And what a more purposeful way to give back than that.
I love it. Yeah, no, and that's one of the things that Sean McVay always talks about. Obviously Mike LaFleur is moving on to a division foe in the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals. So I had asked McVay, how do you position yourself when you're losing guys and these coordinators that you have, they get these head coaching positions elsewhere. What do you think it is that you sort of farm along? Because it's hard to have to now bring on new guys. Everyone's poaching your talent, and the thing that he would say every time that I think the guys in the locker room really resonated with when they were going through their various challenges is, and this is what Coach McVay says: Bleav. Make sure you believe in each other. And he's like, it takes the pressure off of me when I'm highlighting somebody else's things. And I think do you think that that's what maybe you needed more of? And is that what made the Rams and what makes McVay special? Like, what is the secret sauce that when you're going through a challenging situation, you're down by a touchdown, and Caleb Williams throws this insane brings the game into overtime, and you have the mental fortitude?
I mean, it's the person.
Mm.
I mean, it's good to have guidance, but if I had some of the best leaders in the world in Junior Seau and Rodney Harrison, and I just wasn't willing to listen. I thought I knew it all, right? I was the highest paid player. I was the quarterback. Like, I'd been doing this my whole life. And sometimes you have to fail. You just do. And you either get an opportunity to do it again better the next time or you don't. And so I think Sean McVay is an incredible leader. I think the reason why all of his talent leaves him is because people understand that they've witnessed greatness for years, and now they're hoping that greatness comes along and is instituted inside their walls. Mm-hmm. And I would expect nothing less from anybody who takes the job, because he's meticulous. The guys that are underneath him, he trusts them to do things. He doesn't micromanage, but he ultimately makes the final decisions. And so when he talks to the team and he talks to his assistant coaches and he talks about believing, they believe it. Mm-hmm. And that's a big difference maker. When you have found a leader like that, you hold on to him as long as you can.
I mean, one of the things that I've always found admirable too is he always subscribes to be accountable. And, we've seen it during the various challenges, losses, when he's at the podium and he is taking the blame for putting his team in a bad position. He said and he's the last to take credit. So, there's a lot of what he says that you think, oh, this is so, affect positive change. He actually is the example that, I think he wants to see trickle down.
That's what you have to do. If you're the quarterback or coach, regardless of whether or not it's your fault, you take the blame for it. It doesn't cost you anything. And that was a hard lesson to learn for me. Like, it doesn't cost me anything to own up to something anymore. Like, I used to think it was prideful, it was weakness or whatever. He figured that out. Like, he's from the Tim Tebow school of, you step up in front of that podium, you're the quarterback or the head football coach. I don't care if it's not your fault. You go, that's never going to happen again. I'm going to work my tail off. That's my fault. And that's ownership. Mm-hmm. And then when you're a leader of men, owning something that it maybe not your fault and everybody knowing that, it makes you even a bigger superhero in that locker room than you can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty impressive. Last question, Super Bowl. Yep. Let's talk about Super Bowl. FanDuel Sportsbook has, is neck and neck MVP, Drake May, Matthew Stafford. What do you see in terms of weaknesses for each team, and who, what's your final score?
I like Matthew Stafford for the MVP. I just think he had the better year. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, he was profound at his age. The accuracy, the toughness, the amount of touchdowns thrown, I think was incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
As for the game, I think Seattle's playing better than anybody right now.
Okay.
They just are. The difference is in a Super Bowl, it's one game. It's not Major League Baseball. It's not the NBA where you have 7 games to win 4. You go out and you play bad. You lay an egg in the first quarter or something like that. That could be too late.
Yeah.
And so if all trends are trending in the right direction, I think Seattle's a 7 to 10 point, favorite in this football game in terms of how they've been playing. But you never know if they make Sam Darnold do a couple Sam Darnold things where he was the leading turnover guy this year in the NFL. That changes the game dynamics a lot in this football game.
Yeah. Ryan Leaf, former quarterback. I think you do such great things for people that you're using your story. You're accountable with your word. And I really appreciate that, you made time. Bleav in Rams, presented by FanDuel, co-founder of Bleav, and the Recovery Playbook is a conversation about addiction and recovery. You got to listen to this. I appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see you.